London prepares for the biggest security operation it has ever seen, ahead of the funeral of the UK's longest-serving monarch, Queen Elizabeth II. President Volodymyr Zelensky says Ukraine is preparing for the next series of retaking territory in a further boost to his forces' morale. And a Ukrainian man accuses Russian forces of torture during their occupation of his town. Even Big Ben stood silent. The United Kingdom held a minute's silence at 8 o'clock on Sunday night to pay tribute to the late Queen Elizabeth II ahead of today's state funeral. Leaders and heads of state across the world will gather in London to attend, including French President Emmanuel Macron, Spain's former King Juan Carlos I, and US President Joe Biden. Around 500 dignitaries are expected to attend a service in Westminster Abbey. Mourners queued patiently on Sunday, some of them for over 14 hours, to pay their respects to the monarch whose reign lasted more than 7 decades.
The people who are in the queue behind us, we just all hugged when we came out. So the whole episode, from it's so well organised, all the security guards and everyone are just so friendly.
It's going to be quite emotional, but yeah, I thought it was important to come and pay the respects after 70 years of service.
Thousands defied warnings from authorities urging people to stop joining the queue for the Queen's lying in state. And despite a desperate final dash to join the queue, some were left unable to say their goodbyes. More than 10,000 police officers will be on duty in London today, bolstered by reinforcements from all of Britain's 43 police forces. The funeral of Queen Elizabeth II, the UK's longest-serving monarch, is set to involve the biggest security operation London has ever seen. London's Mayor Sadiq Khan described the state funeral as an unprecedented security challenge. Emperors, kings, queens, presidents and prime ministers from around the world are expected to attend the funeral, while hundreds of thousands of people will flock to the capital to pay their respects to the late Queen.
King Charles issued a statement thanking people around the world for their support in these trying times, saying he was, quote, deeply touched by the messages of condolences he received over the last few days. King Charles, who hosted his first major gathering of world events here at Buckingham Palace on Sunday night, some 500 foreign dignitaries were in attendance, including diplomats, but also international royals and heads of state, who were also greeted by Queen Consort Camilla and the new Prince and Princess of Wales, William and Kate. US President Joe Biden and French President Emmanuel Macron were among those invited at Buckingham Palace on Sunday night, and they both had an opportunity to pay their respects to the Queen at Westminster Hall earlier on Sunday, without, of course, going through that very long queue. And queuing is something British people and foreign tourists have grown accustomed to over the last few days across the country, really. Many have arrived here at the Mall hours before that procession with the Queen's coffin is set to go through here, for a chance of one last farewell to a Queen that left an indelible mark on people's lives. Annalise Borges in London for Euronews.
President Volodymyr Zelensky has said Ukraine was preparing for the next series of retaking territory after making a series of gains against Russian forces in recent weeks. Kyiv has pressed a significant counter-offensive in areas around Kharkiv, which has been occupied by Russia for months. Maybe now it seems to some of you that after a series of victories we have a certain lull. But this is not a lull. This is preparation to the next series of very important words for us, which must be heard, because Ukraine must be free, all of it. Russia claimed on Sunday to have successfully repelled a Ukrainian offensive in the Kherson region, suggesting that at least 180 Ukrainian servicemen had been killed. Tanks, armored combat vehicles and other military hardware had been destroyed. The Ukrainian leader has repeated that all of Ukraine must be free, and that now its soldiers were aiming to retake cities including Mariupol, Kherson and Donetsk. 12 days of pain. That's how Mikhailo Chingne describes his time during the Russian occupation of his town. He accuses the Russian forces of using a cell beneath the local police station for torture. After leaving the hospital where he was treated, Mikhailo shows the way to the police station in Izium. Nearby, a mass grave with more than 400 corpses was found.
The yellow bowl was mine. Yes, this was my cell. They were beating my arm upstairs with a metal bar. There was a special room. I can't tell you exactly where it was. It's blurry in my head. There was beating everywhere, even in the cell next to ours, in our cell. The woman from that side was screaming very loudly.
Mikhailo counted the days in captivity. Once freed, he'd been taken to a hospital.
Days of a month: 9, 12, 19, 21, 28.
In Izium, as well as in other eastern Ukrainian towns like Kupiansk and Balakalia, stories of arbitrary detentions and torture by the occupiers are coming to light.
Russian pop star Alla Pugacheva, a Soviet and post-Soviet icon, has denounced the war in Ukraine. Since the beginning of Moscow's assault, the Kremlin has attempted to silence dissidents and artists who choose to speak out against the conflict. However, the 73-year-old took to Instagram and asked to be listed as a foreign agent. In her post, she called on the Justice Ministry to stop sending soldiers to die for illusory aims that make our country a pariah and weigh down on the lives of its civilians. Pugacheva's message comes a day after her husband, Maxim Galkin, a comedian and TV presenter who has repeatedly spoken out against the war in Ukraine, was designated a foreign agent by Russia.
On an official trip to Armenia, a US congressional delegation headed by Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi has openly blamed Azerbaijan and its ally Turkey for the conflict in the disputed border territory of Nagorno-Karabakh. Fighting between Baku and Yerevan flared up again in the region last week, killing over 200. But for days now, a ceasefire seems to be holding.
Our meeting again had a particular importance to us because of the focus on security following the illegal and deadly attacks on us by the Azerbaijan on the Armenian territory. We strongly condemn those attacks, we in our delegation and on behalf of Congress, which threatens prospects for much-needed peace agreement.
And the Russian-backed Collective Security Treaty Organization, which Armenia is a member of, is on the ground.
The main task for today was to visit the territories where the clashes took place, areas of the terrain, settlements and positions of the units on the Armenian side that were subjected to fire damage. We try to be as objective as possible. We work with the facts. It's too early to talk about conclusions.
Both sides blame each other for the renewed violence. Azerbaijan says it was forced to reply to Armenian provocations. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has also said he's worried Russia might stir the pot between the two countries to distract from its actions in Ukraine.
Archaeologists in Israel announced the once-in-a-lifetime discovery of a burial cave from the time of ancient Egyptian pharaoh Ramses II. Dozens of pottery pieces and bronze artifacts were found in the cave that was uncovered by a mechanical digger at the Parmahim National Park.